Take it away.
I feel like we need like an intro beat. I would do that, but there it is. Get loud with
Yoga.
Welcome everybody to the Union Fitness Podcast. To my left here, our beautiful host Josh Elsass, and to my right, the most beautiful yoga teacher on this side of the Mississippi, Haley. So Haley has decided to jump in with us today, and this has been in the process for quite some time.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
We've been talking about this for a couple months through your travels and different things you've had going on. It's finally come to fruition. So we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about what she does here at Union Fitness, how great she is at what she does, and how yoga has had such an impact, and training in general has had such an impact on her life. So if you want to, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do.
All right. Okay. I'm Haley Tamalia. I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, really small rural town. So Curtis and I can relate on that.
Now, are y'all really about cheese? Like, is that really a thing?
I mean, we're definitely about cheese. If you ever fly into the Milwaukee airport and then start heading south to Kenosha, where I'm from, you'll pass Mars Cheese Castle, and there's this giant sign, and it's now they actually made it into a castle. Just filled with cheese.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that cheese wrong. The Belgioso cheese.
Okay.
That one, it's definitely sold here, but that's made in Wisconsin. It's like the good fresh mozzarella.
Yeah.
They have some good Parmesan too.
Now, can you just like bring a bottle of wine and just walk around and like try cheese and drink wine?
Probably.
If not, that would be amazing. Like that might be a good business idea.
Maybe. I know Wisconsin's one of the looser liquor laws places.
Really? You
can be like any age, 6. As long as you're accompanied by an adult, you can drink.
So is that what you did growing up?
I was not accompanied by an adult.
Yeah.
But I did have a fake ID that my dad actually got my picture taken for.
Shout out, Dad.
It was, shout out. Oh man, he's like dying right now. But that story was, I graduated high school a year early.
Okay.
So I was 17 and I moved to Chicago, and I needed to buy cold medicine and stuff. So I had to have an ID for that. And of course I only used it in like emergency situations, buying cold medicine.
Yeah.
Living by myself at 17 in Chicago.
So what did you grow up doing? Like what would you do around there? Like what was there to do?
Oh man. So one of my favorite, I think, rural based activities was playing in a cork factory. At like, you'd wait until it was really dark and you like cross through a cornfield, and then they didn't have any fences, but it was like the material lot essentially.
Right.
For the cork factories. There's all of these like stacked 50 high material lots, and we played Ghost in the Graveyard there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good classic game.
Yeah, that's a good place to play.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you grew up, graduated high school.
Yes. So
what'd you do after that?
Okay, so I graduated high school, and I went to beauty school for a hot second, thinking that I would be a writer.
Awesome.
And a beauty school would be like a way to support that.
Yeah.
But it turns out I sucked at cutting hair. Majorly sucked at it. I walked out of a curling iron final.
Yeah.
Because I had just like butchered my mannequin's head too much. I couldn't curl it. I'm like, all right, we're done with this. So yeah, I walked out of that, and then I went to college at Emerson College in Boston.
Wow.
And ended up switching majors entirely, going to switching majors to marketing. Mm-hmm. So then it was there that I got involved with, was my dream marketing firm at the time. Wow. They were very psychology driven.
Sure.
So that just like combined all of my passion. I used to read psychology textbooks with my brother in the summer, just like for fun. That's what we would do. Just like, yeah,
That's
everybody
pretty cool.
does that.
Yeah.
So when I realized I could combine marketing with psychology, I thought that was awesome. So I knew I was gonna eventually move to Pittsburgh because the company I started interning with and getting involved with there was headquartered in Pittsburgh. So I ended up graduating a year early from there again.
Look at you.
Yeah, I know, right? Look at that. And did my marketing career. During that time training, like in the gym, like I got into bodybuilding. I basically met my husband. He got me into training.
Right. That's where it kind of started, right?
Yeah, really. It was early on in our dating. He showed me a picture of Jamie Eason, who now compared to people, you know, the athletes out there and what have you, is definitely on like the softer side or whatever. And I remember the first time I saw her muscularity compared to all of the magazines that, you know, you grow up with now. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's like too muscular. Oh my gosh. And he just kept joking about it and saying like, you know, oh, you've got a really good, like, you know, I had been training for several years before. So he's like, you got good shoulders. You know, I want to see you get all muscly. Then we broke up. And those words, like, get all muscly, stuck in my head.
Did you hate him?
Like, no, I didn't. It was the most amicable breakup. It just wasn't the right time. But for some reason, that's still, like, stuck in my head. And that's when I started to use some of the routines he had made. And so he really shepherded me into lifting a lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, like, the first time you had just started working here at Union when I first started working here.
No way. Yeah, I thought you had just been here forever.
No. So I started here. It's been 2 years now. Yeah. July. So next month will be 2 years.
Yeah.
And I remember like my first week working here, I was at the front desk and my job was like to meet people. Right. So it was probably noon or a little before noon or a little after. Either way, there wasn't anybody in here, not a soul in the fitness center except you. And I remember you were doing lat pull downs on the Cybex machine and you were just like cranking out like a set of like 12 to 15. And then you would walk up all the way up to the front desk and then you would turn around and walk back. And I'm guessing you were like, that was your time rest period.
Yeah.
You were just going for a walk, you know, and then coming back. And I was like, not intimidated, but I was like, yo, she's jacked.
No, I was intimidated the first time I met her. Absolutely. She walked into the gym and everyone's like, who the fuck's the chick over there who like looks like the body model inside of the muscle class?
Right. Yeah. I did go
That was not well put.
No,
the mannequin inside of a health class is what I was trying to say. Like where every muscle is like defined. You know what I mean? Like,
have you ever seen Body World? Like the exhibit?
Body World. Oh yeah. Bodies. Yeah.
Dude. That's crazy. I thought that's what you were getting at.
Well, that too.
But that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, dude, Haley is jacked. And I didn't know you were an instructor here at the time.
Okay.
I just thought you were a member. And I don't think I ever introduced myself, but then somebody was like, hey man, that's our yoga instructor. And I had never seen a yoga instructor with that build before. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was instantly intrigued, but that was my first introduction to you, and I knew that you were serious about training.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, how did you feel when you were doing bodybuilding and you've done a couple competitions, correct?
Yeah.
So what was that about? How'd you feel when you were doing that?
Oh man, it ended up being just one of the most intense periods of my life ever. That story of can I take a little tangent quick here of how I even got into it?
Yeah.
I got into it because I had been training, like I said, with my husband for a while, and you know, I was in good shape, but still not like super lean, you know. And there was this girl in our gym. This was back in like LA Fitness kind of times.
Is this Boston?
No, this was still Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah. But this girl was just like, she started training and she was getting in good shape, but she was just starting to be really mean and take pictures of people and make fun of people in the gym.
No good.
And it was being really loud and obnoxious, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I started to train for a competition just to know that like I could, and kind of like this is like, be like a show up presence and just like,
yeah.
be like, don't be a jerk. You don't
Sure.
have to be a jerk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't even have a plan to do a show at that point. I just decided to like cut. So I didn't have a coach or anything like that. I actually never ended up with a coach.
Mhm.
I just
You just trained your
read
ass
the
off.
internet and
Yeah,
trained.
Okay, say that again. You went on the internet, right?
Yes.
One of the,
Here he goes. He's
No, no.
so pumped right
like,
now.
One of the easier things to do, but like I can't tell you how many times like I've been and I love when people come to me and they trust in me for information and guidance. But like a lot of times, man, a lot of questions and a lot of scenarios could be taken care of with just a little bit of research. And I mean, you did a whole bodybuilding prep by looking on the internet and researching and figuring out right and wrong and what you thought was best for you.
Yeah.
Could you have done better? Maybe. Could you have done a lot worse? Yeah. But it ended up working, obviously. So
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Especially like for how expensive everything is. Like now,
yeah.
oh my God, competing is just keeps getting more and more and more expensive. And it's like, you know what? Just
yeah. I mean,
use
there's
the internet. I mean,
there's a lot that comes with it. There really is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about signing up for a competition, first of all, then for you, getting the outfit, the diet and the nutrition, the hours in the gym, it's definitely not free.
It's not.
You
No,
know?
it
So-
takes up a lot of
Yeah.
your focus for sure.
So you better have a reason how it's helping you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now at the time, did you have a reason besides just like wanting to prove something?
No, it was really just like wanting to prove it. And I think I may have had like a Jamaican trip coming up or something. So
Hell yeah.
why not? But
Yeah.
then I started to get leaner and I'm like, you know what? I actually think I can do a show.
Yeah.
So I signed up and I did that show. It was my first show. It was out in Philly. So I traveled for it. Not
Yeah.
the best idea.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. You know, and not all the ideas on the internet are good. Like I had like the craziest pee contraptions, like all sorts of stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, I did well in that show. And I don't know, I competed in every like a novice something else, and regular A. I did like as many classes as I could just for fun. Because I didn't know if I'd ever be in that shape again.
Sure.
Who knows?
Right.
Better get it in now.
Yeah.
But I did well. I got super pumped, and then I started doing some bigger shows, and like never did super well at a big show at all. But
It's competitive.
it's
I mean,
incredibly
yeah.
competitive
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you know, there's like posing coaches and stuff
Sure.
do help and
Mhm.
all that. But moreover, it was good in terms of I don't think I thought of myself as like a really determined person.
Mhm.
My parents and everyone will just like laugh at that and say, of course. But it proved to me what I could accomplish and what
Sure.
I could do and set my mind to. And, you know, being that I was also with that marketing job that I was so passionate for,
Mhm.
that job also, I progressed, I got promoted, I was traveling all around. Between the two of like competing
Yeah.
and traveling,
Sure.
it just started to wear really, really stressfully. And I
Yeah.
mean, when it doesn't come for nothing, I think also your partner is an integral part of that process.
Without a
And
doubt.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think it's hard, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, it's hard on your partner, even from a psychological standpoint of like reflecting on their own body of this
Mhm.
person's,
Mhm.
super into this or whatever.
Yeah.
But and just like, I wasn't wanting to go out a lot.
Mhm.
It definitely taught me that that determination, long hours, still doing it, but eventually between the intense training and my intense job,
Mhm.
I literally had a breakdown.
Yeah.
Like literally had a breakdown where I was traveling. I was doing like a cross country trip for work while cutting.
Wow.
And I stopped in Chicago. So I thought, why not just pop home to see my parents in Wisconsin, and then I'll just fly on to California the next week. And by the time I got home, like my parents were like, were so out of it. I was just crying in the middle of the night, and I didn't know that wasn't a normal thing. That like I just thought everybody hated their lives and cried in the middle of the night all night.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah. But I mean, I was just so at that point too determined. You
Sure.
have to know. Maybe you started with a reason, but maybe that reason is now gone, and you're still driving almost compulsively because you feel like you have to. So my dad ended up pinning me down and being like, "You are not in a condition to continue, like, to take this across the country road trip right now." And I'm like, "But Blue Moon needs me." No, Blue Moon did not need me. They went on to be successful without me.
Right. That's tough. That's very tough. I've never been in a situation quite like that where I'm having to travel a lot while training and things like that. But it's important to understand your value, both in a good and bad way, because yes, you are a very valuable person, and you deserve to treat yourself correctly. But at the same time, like, there's other people out there that can replace you instantly. Right. So it's a fine line. We're not so special that we have to do this stuff to ourselves, because there's other people that are doing the same thing and can do the same thing as well. But know that, like, your health and your life is the main priority. So thank goodness for quality parents that kind of helped you realize that. Like, who knows if you didn't make that trip home that week and your dad got a hold of you, you might still be doing that. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe hit by a car, which I think was actually a likely scenario.
Right.
So
was that a major turning point, or did it take a little bit longer?
No, that was like the most abrupt, earth-shattering life change I'd say that I'd experienced up until recently.
Yeah.
But that was huge. I mean, because your identity is so wrapped up in this. And at that point, it was like, I am an emperor, like business building. And, I was doing all these things. And you get an ego about it, and then that was gone. And I was too sick to even go to the gym. Oh, my God. I was like having panic attacks, just almost trying to keep up with myself, with the own expectations. Like, I'd be at the squat rack and just be like, seriously, like, really on the verge of a panic attack at what I'm about to make myself do.
What now? Do you think this is something I've battled with, and I'm actually going through it now, but do you think those expectations are more of what you perceive others' expectations about you, or what you think your own expectations are?
I had like a little Nazi in my head. Definitely. That was just like essentially the laziness Nazi that just was like, if you have anything left, give it, do it. You can push. Like, it just, so it was me, definitely me. I don't think anyone in my life expected a fraction of what I expected out of myself.
And that is exactly what I thought you were going to say, because we do always think that, when we get to whatever success means to us, right? When we get to that successful part in our life, we think that people are holding us to a certain standard. And at the end of the day, they just see me, they don't see me as, the elite level power lifter Curtis, or, the successful business goer Haley. Like, we're still the same people we've always been deep down, and they don't care if we skip a day at the gym or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's important to understand, is what we do does not define who we are.
Yeah.
So, like, I thought for this longest time that I was a power lifter. It's like, nah, I'm Kurt who loves powerlifting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I quit today, is my life still going to be fine? And 100%.
Yeah.
But I still love doing it. Now, yours was a little different. I think you needed to get away from what it is you were doing.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. Now, what was your next step from there? How did you have that conversation? Because you probably felt like you had to start over.
Well,
right? You had like everything going.
I mean, I was in such a rough place that I literally had to take a leave of absence for mental health for my work, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to go back or not.
Sure.
I was in a really severe state of anxiety. I mean, couldn't sleep for days on end type of thing. I had a whole sensory experience, really, of just like I almost felt like I went through a period of what some autistic people have described of sensory overload.
Sure.
And it would be like this weird, I'd go out to try to walk, just out in the city, and it would be so unbelievably overwhelming. And I'd have to be so conscious, like, okay, I have reached the end of a sidewalk.
Sure.
Let's look left and right, move. But at the same time, I would stop and see a flower, and I would just stare at the flower. And it was like the most pure sense of presence that I had experienced. And I started to realize how absent I had been from my own life. Sure, I was doing all of these things, but I was essentially like dead inside, completely dead inside. And I hadn't felt accomplishment from anything I had done. I didn't feel anything, really.
Wow.
And it had been years, It had been years, really, since I had stopped.
Yeah. Now, did that kind of, those times, did that open your mind to life a little bit?
Oh my God.
Did it make you more present about life and what it meant for you? Is
Absolutely.
that kind of what transitioned
you? It was
you?
this like huge revelation, absolutely, where I started to connect with my senses. A lot of that was because I was in so much anxiety all the time. You learn techniques of grounding, which is when you connect to your senses, you are automatically in the present moment. Your body doesn't live in the future. It doesn't live in the past. Your body lives right now. It's the only place. So by starting to really connect to like the textures around me, the feel of the breeze, the smells, everything, I started to just feel so present and so alive and so much more joy. And it was like a rediscovering of my humanity, of my empathy. It was the biggest transformation I've ever experienced.
That's really cool. Quick story. This has kept me out of lifting for a few weeks now, and it's going to keep me out of lifting for a few months. And it's hard for me because I feel like I am the barbell sometimes in like this super macho kind of meathead way. It's like, if I'm not under the bar, then what do I have? And now luckily I have a great wife, great friends, family, stuff like that. But what I've been doing recently is walking. I live in the North Hills, and going for like a 1 to 2 mile walk, right? And when I do that, my neighbors probably think I'm creepy because I walk by and I look at every single house. Now, when I was growing up, most of my life, my dad was a bricklayer. So we would go by a house and he would point out the brickwork and be like, man, look how good that brickwork is, or that shitty brickwork right there, stuff like that. So there's so many brick houses around here, because everything's built in like the 50s, 60s, or 70s or whatever. So I've been walking down the street looking at these houses, and then, you just look at the yards and you're watching people cut their grass or do their mulch, and you feel the road underneath of you and stuff like that. And it has given me a new purpose for what I'm going through right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's opened my eyes to a lot of good things that I have going on in my life, in a time where for the last 10 years, the barbell has been the thing that I've gone to, and now it's not really there. So now it's like the earth, you know what I mean? Or like, the outside world. I'm finding a new appreciation and respect for everything else.
Yeah.
And that sounds like that's something that you went through.
It absolutely is. It reminds me of like two situations of life. One's kind of current, and then also, but back, in that time, that's actually when I started to find yoga.
Yeah.
So I was super anxious. So in addition to doing my little grounding and sensing, I also took walks. Absolutely. And I took walks of appreciation. So like you, I'd be looking at every house, and my thing was like, whatever I look at this house, find one thing to appreciate.
Yeah.
So it could be the even like crappiest, most fallen down, and you're like, you know what? That rust is so gorgeous.
Yeah,
and it's
for sure.
Against the blue sky, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it really like rewires your brain to appreciate. And I think if you can wire your brain to appreciate what's present, you will always feel supported.
Now, okay, did that mindset open your eyes to yoga, or were you doing yoga and that kind of led to that improved mindset? Like,
So
what happened
it
first?
all just happened in a clump together. You know,
It's
I
probably a
started to
blur.
go, yeah, I
Yeah.
started to go to yoga because I couldn't really train. At that time too, when I trained, I would be like 2 days just exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, I just was adrenally fatigued so
Mhm.
much. So I did start doing yoga to just do a thing. Those messages start to, you know, seep in. Because it is also about your mind and mindfulness, but it was also therapy. You know,
Mhm.
I was going through that. Um, and the meditation that came through both from yoga, but also just building on my prior experiences was just like what sealed everything,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Now, did you know that you wanted to get into instructing, or did that happen like, hey, I really enjoy this. Maybe I would enjoy it even more if I was teaching others how to do it.
Yeah, so I did about a year worth of yoga classes, and then I thought, you know what? I don't ever want to go back to business. I don't.
Wow.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just so dead out of me. I mean, I still feel like there's just like a dead being
Mhm.
within me in the business pile, and
Mhm.
I just, yeah, it's weird to have burned
Mhm.
out so deeply and thoroughly on that. So
Sure.
I knew I needed to do something, and I thought it would be so wonderful to work in my body and to be able to do something where when I was then done doing it, my mind could be present on whatever else I wanted to do. Whereas
Right.
my previous job, every thought, even when I was, oh my God, I would write so many reports in the gym. That would be my thing. I'd leave the work at the 12, like do a speed walk to Gold's Gym downtown, and then I do my workout the entire time doing slides in my head
Yeah.
while I'm like doing all these lifts and stuff. Then I'm like, okay, come home, like shove the food in and like bang out the report that I just did in the gym. And then I'd come home and I'd still be thinking about emails. And that's just, you're
Mhm.
not alive. You
No,
are
no.
not living if that's your life. I'm sorry if anyone is experiencing that, but I think if you are, it's time to just stop.
Yeah.
Make one therapy session or
Sure.
something.
Sure.
Just,
Talk to somebody.
yeah.
I think I had a conversation with a friend actually today, and we talked about just being able to admit that something like that is going on in your life. Because I think in today's world, it's harder for us to accept the fact that we need to talk to somebody about
Yeah.
something like that, especially like with the more accomplishments you have, like a successful businesswoman, right? Successful bodybuilder. Through all that, you feel like you should be tough and you should be able to internalize that and deal with it in your own mind. And that's something I always thought that I was supposed to be able to do. And then you finally get to a point where you're like, I got to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And it completely changes your mindset and changes your life. So I think it's important that people do that and really sit down and be like, I'm not any less tough if I talk to somebody or if I tell somebody that I'm struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With anything that you have going on.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Oh, that sits with me so strongly for so many reasons. There's these mantras of loving speech that come from a certain tradition of Buddhism, and one of them is, "I'm suffering, please help."
Mm.
And it's said to be the most difficult form of loving speech because it is a
Mhm.
loving speech to yourself
Sure.
to express to someone that you are suffering and you're in need. And they tell you to write it down on a piece of paper and keep it in your wallet so that you can pull it out because it's sometimes so difficult to utter.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's true. It'll completely change. I think it'll change the path of your life in certain ways.
Yes.
And it clearly helped you. So, I mean, how has, you've been instructing yoga for how many years now?
2.
2?
Yeah.
How have you seen it change your life?
My whole life has become so much more present since I've been walking on this path.
Mm-hmm.
To be aware of every breath is literally a practice
Mm-hmm.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And to realize just how much is right here, and there's no future really that exists. There isn't.
Yeah.
All we have is right here, and it can be gone in a moment. It absolutely can. Life is fragile. Life is precious.
I was going through some things a few years back, and one of my clients actually that I used to train, he told me, he said, Curtis, if you got 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, you're pissing on the present.
I love it. Oh my God, that is so great.
And I laughed.
Oh, that
and
is
I thought
brilliant.
I just laughed because I was like, oh, that's hilarious. But then I thought about it when I went home that day, and I was like, that's exactly correct.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I'm so caught up in what I've done, or so worried about where I'm going, then I'm missing out on everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of changed my life in a certain way. You know what I mean? So, you know, what are some things with yoga? People that are listening to this right now may never get to that point, you know, from just coming to yoga class. Like, what are some things they can do, and what are some immediate things that some people can notice through yoga?
Just number one, breathe.
Yeah.
A single breath is so powerful. A single breath has the power to restore a sense of clarity. And if everyone took a deep breath every time they went to the toilet, they'd already start feeling a lot better, I think, about life.
Yeah.
Like, let your cell phone stay in your pocket and just breathe.
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of not doing that. Very simple, and like at first seems kind of silly, but so true.
Yeah.
You know, take a second and just take a deep breath, right? Close your eyes for a couple of seconds, take a deep breath, and stop thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And so is that the basis of yoga and how you instruct it?
So I do feel that there are many, many, many teachers, so many teachers who are better physical teachers than I am. Absolutely. I think I do the shapes, but for me, it's what presence do we bring to the shapes? I still do vinyasa where we'll build up, you know, a flow and stuff, but I really try to get awareness on how do your feet feel connecting to the ground, you know, keeping your breath very, very present. And I'm just observing what thoughts you're having during the moment, how you're swearing at me in your head right now. Just be aware of that, you know?
Sure. Now,
well, as someone who has sworn in their head at her regularly,
I was actually going,
So, kind of one of the first things I did when I started coming to Union Fitness was go to yoga. Was one of like the reasons why we went to Union, is like, well, they have yoga and I would like to do yoga regularly. And Haley was my yoga and still is my yoga instructor.
Wait, how long's it been?
Probably like 4 months, 5 months at least.
We're going to change that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're in charge of my programming.
Yeah.
So,
that's
you
right.
should go to Yin for your recovery.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a new class that I just
saw
started
that.
last week. It
Yeah.
had some people. I was really excited about that. I'm really excited for that class. So
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
It is Ease Up. It's a great class for anyone who's beginning yoga. Also, I really had in mind like powerlifters, because Powerful ends like 15 minutes before that class. It's Mondays at 7:45 is when it starts. So it's either for powerlifters or people who can barely get out of bed, because all you need to do is just like make the transportation, and then you get there and we lay down for like, you know, the first half hour.
Love
basically. It. Yeah, you're just
My
deep
style.
stretching. Yeah, slow, deep stretching on the ground, chilling out, starting to wake up. Then I do a little bit of sun salutations, which are, if anyone's familiar with yoga, it's like where you're standing up, finding your downward dog. That sort of, it's a very familiar flow for people. So we'll just do that a couple times so that you're not groggy. You know, you start to wake up and energize for your day ahead. And then we close with like 5 to 10 minutes of seated meditation. So I'm so excited for this class because, one, no one really does yin in the morning yet. It's like, that's what your body wants. You don't want to move that much.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, waking up for the day. And also, it's just such a nice way to prepare for the whole week ahead, it
Mhm.
being a Monday. But the other yin class is on Saturdays. That's where I would love to see our friend here. Yeah, Saturdays at 10:30 in the morning. That's
Okay.
just yin the whole time, just
Yeah.
laying, deep stretching. Super cool class.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it was what you were talking about, like as far as a teacher goes, that you really do try to focus on the grounding yourself and the breathing and the music that you play and the way that you pace your classes is it's active enough that your brain is like kind of like, oh, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing, but also is like calm enough that like my brain can find little pockets and moments of like relaxation
Nice.
inside of the class. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with breathing. I don't know the science behind it, but it is definitely a Haley yoga class is well worth your time. And you have this amazing thing that you do at the end of class where you come over to certain people and you rub your hands together. And then I don't know which magic you put into me, but like on some of the worst days, you would come over and like boom, and then I just felt amazing after. Like I felt like my entire attitude and energy had changed dramatically.
Aw.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm
Love it.
looking forward to being able to do hands-on assists after this pandemic is
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. So like maybe Josh, maybe that's something we do here soon.
What?
Get our asses back in there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're coming
I would like to. So
with the broken wing?
so that's what I was going to ask Haley. So
Oh.
Modifications.
okay.
Yin would be easier for you to do for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I've said this maybe when we had Ashley on, but years ago, I'm talking like 6-7 years ago, I did yoga once a week, and it was
Yeah.
more of like a yin style, right? And man, the clarity, how I was sleeping, like I would wake up in the morning and not even remember falling asleep.
Oh man, that's insane.
Yeah, but
That's like
I had
sleeping
a
like the ancients.
I had a great instructor, and what
Yeah.
she would do, she would make me visualize while we were there to when we would be on our backs, the way she was, teaching, I would think that I was floating on a cloud. And then she would say things like, imagine the sun coming up over the horizon,
Yeah.
hitting you on the face, feeling the warmth, things like that. And I would do that. She told me one day, if you do this and, do the same thing when you're laying in bed at night, you will fall asleep and you will be so confused when you wake up the next day. And it was true. I would wake up and I'd be like, where the hell am I? How did I fall asleep? And
yeah.
I don't know why I stopped, but I certainly noticed a difference when I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've always wanted to get back into. It's just I need somebody to like kick me in the ass and get me back in there.
Honestly, being in a time of transition too, where you can't have your focus as much on the barbell, might be a great time to
Perfect
start to
time.
integrate
That's what
a
I'm
new
thinking.
practice. And so many yoga teachers are like yelling in my ear right now, telling me like, you can do yoga doing nothing on your mat, just breathing. And I'm like, I know, but like, yeah. But I do think yin is what I would recommend for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get in
That
there.
would be pretty cool and great for some powerlifting people have such tight hips. So that's why I just want yin for all of them to like. You actually will stretch the fascia out so
Mhm.
that your muscles have more room to lengthen and
I-
contract.
That's been my favorite thing I've learned on this
Yeah.
podcast is fascia.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
just
yeah, yeah, the
like
fascia's
learning
amazing.
that
It's
it
such a cool-
exists.
such
I'm
a
like,
cool
that's
word.
wild.
Oh my god, I'm reading
Yeah.
a
Like-
book right now called it's the Anatomy Trains book. The Anatomy Trains is a way of viewing anatomy not as individual muscles,
Mhm.
but rather collectively in units as to like lines of how we use force.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's basically like they dissected the bodies, but instead of dissecting using a scalpel vertically, like everything has been for the last like thousands and thousands and thousands of years, they did it
They
horizontally.
went across it. Yeah.
And that allowed them to see like sheets where like, wow, the back of your eyes are connected all the way through like, your cervical areas and then your lats and all the way down to your feet. And it was really interesting because they're these fascial nets.
Yeah.
So by working within those, you can find relief
Sure.
and also more efficient functioning.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody thinks as, we're taught that our body is all these different components. But like when you really dig deeper, it's all run off of the same thing from head to toe. It's just it's one thing when it comes down to it. It's not like, oh, there's your shoulder, there's your bicep, there's your knee. It's like, man, that's all connected.
And when you get injured, you really start to realize it because something else starts compensating. Now you're injured on the other side of your body, and like, what is going on?
And that's why we need yoga.
Yes.
Yeah. I have so many friends that need to get their asses, including myself, into yoga.
Yeah.
So I think this, the metal yoga.
I was gonna say, I'm waiting to talk about it.
The metal yoga might change the industry.
So excited. Oh my gosh.
So I had people from like across the country message me when I reposted it the other day, and they were like, please tell me more about this.
Oh my God.
So like, what are we going to do here?
Yeah, well, we're going to listen to some Meshuggah and some Rammstein, and we're working on getting some whiskey there.
Now, how is it possible for these things to go together?
Oh, you're just gonna have to show up to find out.
All right.
You know.
I like that.
I like it. When is the date for that?
It is June 26th. It's a Saturday, noon to 1:30.
Where?
Right here, Union Square. It's that grass right out front.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So excited.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I'm gonna do whatever I can anyway.
Yes.
Just don't get me on like the drums or anything, because I can't.
Yeah.
I can't anyway, even if I had a good arm, so that's okay. But I know you have your underground metal band.
Oh yeah, my underground band. They honestly, I have to be honest, my band has not gotten together since we all developed an addiction to oh shoot, I'm blanking on the name right now. It's a Netflix show.
That's not what I was expecting.
I know. We just keep watching Netflix and they never want to practice anymore.
Okay, well, maybe when the Netflix wears off.
I know, when we run out, that's the thing. When we run out of our Netflix, we'll do so many great things.
But there's going to be another series. But so what I want to dig into a little bit is how yoga has helped you with recent events in your life over the last year.
Yeah, so that's a great one. So for those who don't know, my brother passed away this past January. He lost his life to mental illness, which is to say that he suffered an extreme panic attack and slit his wrists. Mm-hmm. He was a third-year medical student at Mayo Clinic and leading his class there.
Wow.
He was the most brilliant person that I've ever met, and the conversations that we shared, I could talk to him for like 3 hours. Mm-hmm. About philosophy, morality, and chemistry. And then afterwards my mom would say, what's Brandon up to? And I'd say, I have no idea. Brilliant
Everything.
guy, but so kind, so caring for so many people, but he didn't really go to get therapy. Mm-hmm. He thought he could therapy himself, which he did lots of self-work for sure. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable, very self-aware, but there's a limit to, everyone has a blind spot. Sure. Even the most brilliant among us who study brains as he did, who study psychology as he did, you can't see yourself all the way, and just having that third perspective is something that regrettably he didn't have, and things escalated over time. But the way yoga helped my practice, oh my God, because you are so many ways. From being during the hospital portion where, he's in a coma and just you're waiting, so being able to meditate and to breathe and to just tap into the love, that was incredibly crucial. And then a big thing is I was with my family for 7 weeks. It was so great that, Union Fitness taught, and everyone's just so supportive. Like, take anytime you need. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. Truly great to have people who care about people. So I stayed with my family in Wisconsin, stayed with Sarah, who's my brother's wife. And you're with people who are grieving, and to sit with suffering. We don't sit with suffering in our lives. We usually, when we suffer, we try to scroll on
Mhm,
something. We try to
mhm.
forget about it. We don't sit with our own suffering. So yoga over the years has taught me to sit with my own suffering. And that is so important because until you can sit with your own suffering, you can't sit with someone else's.
Mhm.
And when you're sitting with someone who's just lost everything and crying and crying and crying, there's nothing you can do. And you have to trust that your presence is enough and to simply bring your presence to that situation. And without yoga, without meditation, I couldn't have just sat.
Mhm. Sure. No, how what do you think your life would have been like during that time if you had not had that yoga and that mindfulness and things like that?
Oh God. I mean, I think it also would have actually had a big impact on my family because I was,
I'm sure you were strong for them.
well, and we hate the phrase we're strong because we're all like, vulnerability is the most courageous thing you can do.
Sure.
And sometimes that means being quote weak in front of people,
Mhm.
but I did feel like my mindful presence had a huge impact in keeping everyone grounded. I did feel very grounded throughout the
Mhm.
experience. And every week I led a candlelight ceremony kind of with a Buddhist tradition. My brother studied Buddhism. So every week after he passed, we lit a candle and we held flowers and we went around a circle. The flower was like your microphone. So whoever had the flowers could talk. Important because my dad likes to talk a lot. So having these flowers were good. We'd go around, we'd say appreciations for Bran, my brother, appreciations for one another. And then we'd go around after that and we'd have a pain round and you just share your pains.
Mhm.
So during that time, no one's allowed to speak. You
Mhm.
just sit with people. So it's teaching them to just sit with one another in suffering. And everyone was able to really get everything out. Sometimes it would be even like, oh, we're all grieving, our tempers run thin. It really hurt me when the other day X happened,
Sure.
so you could just get everything out
Mhm.
and brought us all so close as a family. Sarah, she's my sister now.
Mhm.
Like Bran was my only brother and now I have an only sister.
Mhm.
She stayed with us and I feel like those sessions that brought us together so mindfully and presently, where we'd meditate together beforehand too, and then mindfully hug afterwards.
Yeah.
It was just, my parents have said that they think that has made it so that they're not getting much out of their grief counseling right now because
Sure.
they said that they just feel like that really helped. It helped all of us.
Sure.
I don't think that we would have had that unity and honesty without the yoga practice that I'm so grateful for.
And that was kind of my thought is clearly it sounds like you have a great family. And it sounds like their mindset and philosophy is very similar to what yours is now. Now, was that always something when you were growing up? Like, is that how your family's always been? Or do you think you have helped them with that through conversation over the last few years?
My family has been rather awesome always.
Mhm.
Just grateful to have been gifted that. They have also been families of high performing doers.
Uh-huh.
So constantly go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go. So this experience has definitely been a teaching and really stopping and sitting and listening and being okay with not being able to do anything about a situation.
Mhm.
So we've all grown
Mhm.
through this.
Yeah. Now, what do you think your brother wants you to do going forward?
Be kind. Absolutely. His favorite saying was, in a world where you can be anything, be kind.
Love it.
Absolutely.
It's not hard to do.
It isn't, and it makes you so happy.
Yeah, it really does. No, in a crazy world, it's so simple.
What am I missing? Like, what is funny? I'm confused.
It's just like, it's such a simple thing,
Oh, okay.
It's such a simple thing. And like, I'm sure if I asked you one piece of advice about like my life, like, Haley, man, I need this purpose. What do I need to do? I'm looking for a magical answer, right? And you're probably like, hey, be kind.
Totally.
right? And then I'm sitting there pissed off because that's not what I wanted to hear. I thought you were going to have something magical. But man, that's like the basis of a lot of things.
Oh God, it really is. I mean, at the end of my experiences with these great losses have taught me that love is all that you have. It's a cheesy thing, but what else are you going to do with your time?
Yeah.
Anything you do won't matter unless it also matters to someone else.
Sure. No, I think you're exactly right. But I think one thing that's very interesting, could kind of go back a little bit, is through yoga, I think you found the benefit of being able to open up instead of dealing with things simply internalized. So I think we were talking a little bit about how that was always what the barbell did for me, but the barbell kept it internalized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I know what you mean.
So
I have 8 years of knowing what you mean.
So when I was going through some shit, I would get my ass to the gym, right?
Yeah.
I gotta deal with this. I love the gym, right? And I'm sitting there training and I'm squatting and I'm deadlifting and benching and I'm feeling so much better. And I leave and then I go about my life, but it's still, it's trapped. It's like it's trapped in the bar and then trapped within me.
Ooh.
And I could never get it out.
Yeah.
I felt like that's all I needed. And I never talked to anybody about it. My family, my significant other, my friends. I had a couple, one in particular, my best friend, Dave. He and I used to sit on the front porch at like midnight and just like look at the sky and just talk about whatever was on our minds at that point in our life. And that was the only time that I really would open up to somebody about what was
beautiful time. That's like magic time.
We still talk about it.
Really?
And that was like 10 years ago. We're still like, man, because he has since then moved to New York, then moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and now he's back in Maryland. And we still are like, man, we got to go back to your parents' house and sit on the front porch one night and just talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the point of that whole story was, I think that's the difference between the mindfulness of yoga and then just lifting.
So this is really interesting. It's something I've thought about a lot, because when I would lift and during my most intense periods, very much like you just take whatever you have to the gym and you're just going to like burn it out.
Yeah.
I think, when I didn't power lift, but I pushed the limits within my bodybuilding range. And I trained to failure so much. Oh my God, that's probably why I was so injured. I trained to failure all the time. And, but when you're pushing yourself, it's almost like you go blank. And I think it's almost more dissociative in a way, where I'm like, I have to leave my body to do this lift, and there's such an adrenaline and euphoria from that.
Hard to explain,
you
isn't it?
feel like you've got this great release, totally physically. But it wasn't until with yoga where I realized there's this opposite direction of tuning in. So that's almost, I hate saying like, oh, lifting isn't going to give you the same psychological benefits, because I've benefited psychologically tremendously from lifting. And there are experiences that I cannot get from yoga that I can only get from lifting. But I do think there's something different about tuning into, say, taking a yin class and feeling all of those fibers and saying, all right, I'm just going to stick with this and sit with this for the next 3 minutes. Yeah. And I'll breathe with however intense the sensation is, being with it like a friend on a someone's porch at night.
Yeah, I think the thing about training and doing that for help, as opposed to like something like yoga or meditation, is when you're training, and depending on what you have going on in your life, you're probably pushing the limits to the point where it's still accumulating stress.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. All stress is the same across the board.
Yes, that is a key learning.
So it's like, if you have something going on in your life and you say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and work it out, whether it be life, whether it be like maybe you have a final coming up for school or whatever. And I've talked to people and I'm like, dog, don't go to the gym. Take the day, walk, go see a friend, go see a family member, because you think that going into that gym is going to help you get over that. And what it's doing, it's adding to the stressor, and it's becoming part of the stressor.
Yeah, that was back when I ended up physically and mentally breaking down. That was my big aha was, oh, you physical stress and mental stress all like they come from the same pool.
Sure.
And I think there's also difference of who are you. Like if you're someone who ends up being too intense all the time, you're the one who probably needs to take your walk.
Sure.
Someone else might get a little bit of like, if they're, coming and lifting a little bit or whatever, they maybe about the same as a walk. But walking is also the best mind clearing thing you can do for you.
Yep,
Walking and meditation are it.
Yeah. Now, too much of a lot of things can have a negative effect. Now, so the thing is finding that sweet spot. And I think combining weight training and yoga in a sweet spot would be the key.
Yeah.
That'd be the ticket, right?
Yeah.
Now, is there, like, from what you've seen, because you come from both sides, is there a sweet spot? Like, what do you think that is, as far as like how often, the frequency of each throughout the week, or is it just dependent on person?
I think it's going to depend on person. I know my joints and stuff can't handle a lot. Some people say that they can take their rest days and do yoga. I can't do that. I need to actually rest at least once, a week for sure. I think ideally, if you could do a little bit of yoga before you trained, because a little bit of like vinyasa before you trained. I mean, even in maybe just like 15 minutes or something. That would probably be pretty good. Dynamic stretching to get your muscles ready to fire and lift. And then if this is ideal world, had ideal time right after or like later that night, you could do some yin, slow stretching, longer holds.
Yeah.
I think that would make you feel pretty good.
Sure. I think so.
Yeah.
Right.
But it just comes down to the person.
And I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Figuring it out every day.
So what are your last pieces of advice that you'd like to leave us with today, Haley?
Breathe, be kind, and ask for help.
Love it.
Love it. All
Love
right.
it.
This has been Union Fitness Podcast.
Yep.
Come check out Haley's yoga classes.
When are they?
Oh, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 6 a.m. vinyasa. Or you can do that ease up class I was talking about Monday, 7:45 in the morning. And yin, Saturdays, 10:30. But most of all, June 26th at noon, come do metal yoga.
Awesome.
Now, where can they find you, real quick, on the social medias?
Gosh, I don't even remember my Instagram.
It's all right.
handle.
Then don't
Yeah,
plug
just,
it. Don't plug it.
No,
Not worth it.
We're gonna
Just
find
find
you.
me in person.
There
That's
we go.
the best way anyway.
There we
True.
go. Come
True.
to Union Fitness.
Yes, come
find
to Union
Haley,
Fitness and see me.
and,
Right.
That's what we
and
do.
we'll go from there.
Right. Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you
Thanks.
for tuning in, Haley. Thank you so much
It was awesome.
for coming on and talking. It's been magnificent. So you're such a beautiful soul. So thank you for coming on and talking.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. We're out. We will see you next time.
Later, skaters. That's for you, Jared.